Neo looks out at the expanse. He sees the fields of human beings that are drained and used only to die and be recycled. You see, that's all we are to our controllers, batteries, nothing more than common sources of energy, and they get us to work for them and their plans for the future through our enslavement. Mainly this comes in the form of labor, where most of us work at jobs we hate and waste precious hours of our lives and simultaneously pay our rulers taxes to fund all the evils of mankind, ensuring the same tragedies can keep happening over and over again. This could be in the form of war, the trafficking of women and children, the existence of the homeless, suicide connected to rampant capitalistic competition, starvation because of the hoarding of resources, exploitation, bribery, corruption, blackmail, take your pick. But yes, I know this is heavy stuff. It can be very overwhelming, but that's exactly why we need to act instead of letting humanity sink further into depression. Even though every person does have stores of imagination, ingenuity, innovation, we can't let this go on where our lives amount to nothing compared to our masters. Because until we wake up, we remain ever asleep in a position of servitude. Every thought we have and thing we do is not really in accordance with our free will and individuality. Rather, they are dependent upon the systems the managers have set up, and that itself is the matrix. Take hope, though. Please find courage, for when you are awake, you see through the dark veil to the light, and you no longer play by the rules of man-made laws or care about institutions. So, what if I told you that there were those who knew the only question worth asking, but they made it their goal in life to maintain mass confusion on such levels that inequality is bred into the system, with these few who have the answer always being on top and able to control all those beneath? Of course, the question that has been pondered throughout the ages is this: what is the meaning of life? The elites, as I'm sure you have heard about by now, know that each of us is an immortal soul, and every life we are reborn and relearn all of our trials and errors, including all aspects of love and hardship. I could talk about the role of the elite families and their bloodlines and their wisdom of civilizations, how they're able to control populations so easily. But that is why I wrote it down in books, so anyone can read it anywhere, anytime, and who knows, maybe those will even get turned into film. But for now, let's get back to the movie at hand so you can see how everything fits together. Morpheus. You have been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today. Later, Neo comments, I can't go back, can I? No, but if you could, would you really want to? I feel I owe you an apology. We have a rule. We never free a mind once it has reached a certain age. It's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go. I know I personally can attest to how frustrating this is when you have older family and friends who have had such a thorough job of brainwashing throughout the years that whenever you're just trying to help them and make them aware, they feel like they're being attacked because they're so attached to the matrix. And it's not easy, but there are three other things about the movie I would like to point out. First are the so-called agents and how they can become anybody. The metaphor behind this is that anyone who believes in government or banking institutions, basically the need for our lives to be organized by someone else and subject ourselves to senators, police, voting, what have you, or the prearranged rise and fall of economies and market prices, can have their mind and body taken over because they don't think or act for themselves as a unique person, but always for another power that they are forced to conform to. No one who is a part of the matrix, our manipulated society, does anything for the self, but it is always for the will of another, be it the state, worthless currency, your boss, some fabricated ideology, or any authority that is not yourself. Another scene that is sort of linked to this is when Neo is driving with the crew and he points out a noodle shop and he's just looking out the window, but he makes clear how weird it is, how fake it is to be back in what you and I consider to be the real world once he's plugged back in. The last scene of some relevance is when Cypher, the traitor, who knows it is all just an illusion, nonetheless makes a deal to betray those who are free. As he is tasting the steak in the restaurant and admits its falsehood, and that he wants to forget it all and in a sense shut his eyes and go back to sleep and become rich and someone important, like an actor, which is ironic because he is an actor, so he can pretend the fantasy has some credence or matters at all. He is willing to trade reality for ignorant bliss, as so many of the so-called sheep do, who force their eyes closed because they don't want to see the truth. There is too much to divulge, especially if I were to speak in length about all three films, but the words of Morpheus aptly suit the analogy to our real lives. Time is always against us. We need to stop condoning all the atrocities that happen every day and address the real issue that is causing the majority, if not all, the suffering in the world. So every video I'm going to have an accompanying documentary. Today it's by the Corbett Report, an alternative news source. I'll put it in the description. It's a history of the Federal Reserve. It's called A Century of Enslavement. And once you watch it, I guarantee you, you're not going to feel the same way about money ever again. You're not going to want to accumulate it your whole life. You'll just see how manipulated it is, the whole process from beginning to end. The second one is a book by John Hamer. It's Falsification of History, Our Distorted Reality, and it's a pretty comprehensive book. If you don't know what's going on in the world, covers everything from why evolution is taught in schools to what happens after we die, and everything in between, from if you think we went to the moon in the 60s to what really happened to the Titanic and how Hollywood's able to make money off of it, and everything in between. He gives like a very unbiased account of, for example, wars and how they're all set up so people think they're dying for freedom or defending their nation or justice or whatever. Like he'll talk about Hitler and the Nazis and how we think they're so evil and bad, when really, if they would have won, then German propaganda would have made them out to be the heroes and would have made American GIs and the Royal Navy to be the villains. It's a very interesting book, but for now I'll just leave you with this, that it's not by coincidence that we're all here alive right now for a reason in the span of the human timeline.